Hi, hello, and welcome to another tutorial in web development in HTML and CSS and JavaScript. We already done a video that covering in it all the basics that you truly need in to use in HTML. And now we're going to create another folder for the styling. All the links you're going to find them right away in the description and also in my website. So in here, as I said, let me create a folder and call it CSS. And CSS, it just stands for styling sheet, cascading style sheet. And inside this CSS folder, I'm going to create another one, another file and name it index.html, because in web development in general, absolutely you're going to need HTML. So if you're not familiar with HTML, you better take a look at the previous video. I created or I gathered there the most important stuff that you're going to need in every single project that you're going to use in your career, or any projects probably going to meet is going to include that properties. And here I'm going to create my folder for the styling. I'll name it style.css. Click yes. Let me go back here and drag this beautiful folder right here to Sublime Text Editor. You could use any fancy editor, it's not matter. Anyone, Visual Studio Code, PyCharm, Sublime Text, whatever the studio that you're going to use, they are all the same. So now I'm going to open this index on my in Google. As you see, up to now it's just a blank page. So let me split the screen to two parts. Now, after splitting the screen, I'm going to open these two files right here and close this part by just dragging like a little bit to the left. Now, in the index.html, in Sublime Text, it is this trick by just typing HTML, hitting tab is going to give you this boilerplate, and we're going to just like style like this. I'll go with title of style. If I went here, as I said, as you see up here, it's style editor to the top here. All of this we discussed in the previous video. You better to take a look there. So as you see here on the screen on the right, just a blank page, but I'm going to add multiple things to it. So let's start with some divs, like a div, creating a button, then going to implement some styling to it. Okay, so inside this div, I'll go the div. I'd already done that in HTML, the previous video. So in this div, I'm going just in here, give it a class to style it. The class is just like a name they're going to give us a part of or to some specific element to add more style into them, or to call them in JavaScript. But now going to jump into JavaScript, but just leave us with styling and index. So to call this like this div here, to call it into styling, all you gotta do here, give it a class name or ID. I'll give them both. For instance, now I'll go with class name, and it's better actually to use the class's name instead of the IDs. The IDs is quite preferred to use with JavaScript in some cases, of course. So in class here, I'll give it like container like this. Inside of here, inside of this div, let's go with some paragraph. I'll do like lorem or idri logic is a wonderful channel for learning, like this. So after saving, I reload the page. As you see, the text is just added up here. So in the next, let me smaller size. So in the next line, let me go with some A. I'll say, for instance, before the A, I'll say also let me here change the P, the paragraph, to something else, like in each one for header. Each one, save it to be more bigger. As you see, Logic is a wonderful channel. And in A here, I'm going just to remove this and say paragraph now, and let's say you can visit our channel on YouTube, of course, on YouTube. Let me do this. YouTube. I'll do here link. I'll say go to YouTube. Inside of the here, let's just go with YouTube. Inside of here, I'm going just to implement the ref is just the link that we want to go to. So for instance, I want to go my channel. I grab the link of my channel, then I put it inside of the ref method that is going to take me to that place. And if you just go here and the ref stands for like this, hypertext reference. It's the hypertext reference that is take us to the page that we want by this reference of the page. So hypertext reference. And this is now, if I save this part right here and it'll load the page, as you see, you can visit our channel on YouTube. And if I clicked here, it's going to take me to the YouTube channel of our channel. Actually, this is our channel. You can visit us, or you're going to find the link in the description. Up to now, we didn't add any styling. We're still just with JavaScript. And to add some styling to this beautiful page right here, we have to indicate or to share this file right here and relate it with this HTML file. So how could I do that? Inside of the header or the head up here, I'm going to do a link. This method, it just allows me to call the style file. And remember that I create the file of styling and file of the HTML as the same directory. So I'm going just to drag called the ref hypertext reference in here. So I name the style.css. I name it style.css. So I just call it in here. So as I said, this is the container, or this is the class, have the name of container. So just copy it, go to the styling, do a point, Ctrl V, and you could write now your styling. So the difference between the classes and the IDs like this. So container, let's just give it the same name, container, like this. Inside of the style, to indicate this part by just the ID, instead of the point, you're going to do this hashtag right here and say container too. So this is the difference between classes to call them in the style sheet file. So the classes, just remember the classes, for the classes you use the dot. Let me here comment it. And to do a comment in CSS or styling file, you do this one right here, and then a star, letter star. Then you're going to create another letter star and this one letter break or whatever. So as you see here now, the others in the same color, but now we could add our comments that are not going to change anything in the page. Let's say dot or dot to call the class name, to call the class name. Let me resize this. To call the dot to call the class name of a property of an element like this. And the same comment we're going to do here and say hashtag let me go hashtag or sharp for C# or hashtag. You do whatever you want actually to call the ID name of an element like this. So inside of, you could edit things here on here, actually not matter. So for instance, I want to give some kind of background to this, everything inside of this element here inside the div, like the header, paragraphs, the A's, everything. I want to give it a background. So let me inside of here make this a little bit smaller to be more clear, like this. So inside of here, I'm going just the container, or here there are no different. So like go with this property background color, and I call it, for instance, teal. It's just a dark color. So if I want here, reload the page, as you see, add that teal color to the background. If I want, for instance, use the IDs inside of the classes, what I'm going to, for instance, here, just go with the color to change it to white color, the taxes to change them all to the white color. So there is this F, 3 Fs, it is the white color in the hexadecimal number, I don't know, hexadecimal, something like this. Or you gotta do just call the name of the color like white. Now if I reload it, while like this. So if I reload the page, as you see here, the text is now in a white color, but the link in this place is still in that dark purple. So to change the color of it, also we use just the same thing by calling the A's access links. So now let's just use the class instead of the IDs. As I said, the IDs is not better to use with CSS all the time. I use classes, so it's quite useful for me. And you could use whatever you want. Actually, there ain't no difference between that. So let's jump first of all here, but we'll dive in the styling. Like go to the body, like add a few style to it. I'll go with margin 0 and padding 0. Padding 0, like this. Now if I reload the page, this div here will jump to the edges on the right and the left, as you see here, on the right and the left. And if you want this div to be at the top, all you gotta do, just do this top and make it to 0, save it, reload the page. It's not working, but there ain't no problem with that. We're going to just give like a padding here to 12 pixels all around. If you give it 12 pixels all around and reload the page, as you see here, it's covered that little period that was at the top in here. And also give it a bit of space left to right. The right is not showing clear because the language jumps to the learning jumps to the new line, but it's still here this a few space between the edges. So that's it. So inside of the container in here, like I utter the padding, and this is the color matter to change the color of the text. By now I'll go with white color, save it like this. And we could also adjust the font family of this text right here by doing just font family like this, family, and do Roboto. For instance, there is a bunch of things. Roboto, I'll go with sans serif, like this. So if I save it, reload it, now the text is changed. And you could just go here and call the font awesome, this one. And it is here in Google Fonts, Google Font. There is a bunch of fonts that you could change in Arabic, in Korea, in Japanese, and all the languages, as I think. You could just look out for the right one by filling the search fonts here. This is the Roboto one that I chose. You could just click on it, and it's going to take you what one you want, and here the pixels, small, bigger. As you see here, the text is in italic, some other text is in bold. And if you just want this one, you go with select here, select this style. After clicking on it, it gives you the link. If you want just to link it, like grab all of these things right here by copying it, go to this index.html, under here, pass it, or otherwise, let me remove this, or otherwise go to the import and this import you're going to implement inside of, not all of it, just this one right here, call it, and go back again here and implement inside of the styling up here at the first here, like this. It's not showing clear, like this. So I think everything is cool now and more clear. The font, you could just choose it from here. And in my website, I gathered a page in my website. I gathered in it the most important website they truly useful for every programmer, whatever you are, a backend, front end, or anything. Let's go back to our website. This is our website in its width. So let's just talk with the width of normal now, or just leave it split the screens better. Let me small size this like this. All right, let me small size this. In here, as I said, the link on all of that, so I changed the color to white. Now for instance, I want to add more style into this. You can visit our channel on YouTube. I'm going to change, you can visit to red color, so I'm going to just container here. So let me remove this import. I'll go dot container. I want, in this container, I want this P, the paragraph. So here I'll just add the P and open this. I'll go for instance color and change it to steel blue or wheat, for instance, wheat like this. Save it, reload the page, and as you see here, you can visit our channel, change to this color. And the same thing for the A, just copy the same thing here, go back here, do an A, give it a color, for instance, in this case for the blue color, blue. Save it. If I reload now, it's color changes to blue. What about this underline here? If I want to change it or to remove it, just go with text, decoration, I'll leave it to none, like this. Now if I reload it, the underline have been gone. And you could just give this some padding, like 12 padding or 8 padding at the top and bottom, 12 pixels left or right, like this. And you could just duplicate it if you want to be more specific, like this. So top, right, bottom, and left. So if let me save this and give also like a background color to be more specific, or to show you here, it'll give you just a red color, red, and save it, reload the page. Here we are. The background color of this link changed to this color. Let's just give it a white color out now, 3 Fs like this. Here we go. Now go to YouTube. And there's another property that when we hover this one, before I jump to there, if you want to give this like a shadow at the edges in here, all you gotta do, go here, do like a box shadow, and give like 0 pixels, 2 pixels, 8 pixels, 0 pixels, RGBA, red, green, blue, and this is the A for alpha. So 0, 0, 0, 0 for the black color, and I make the transparency to 0.5. And also up to now, let me reload the page. As you see here, if I did this letter shadow, you could see it. If not, let me just change it to 16 for instance. If I reload it, as you see here at the bottom, this shadow, and you could just play around with it, but always just make this shadows just a little bit in your page to not be the page not look bad. So just leave it with 4 for instance now. Now if I reload it, as you see here, there is that shadow at the background, or at the bottom here, left, and this stuff. And you could just play around with all of them and see what the shadow they prefer to be. And also we're going to give this like a border color. For instance, I want the border width to be to 2 pixels, and I want to be solid, for instance, solid, and the color, like, give it to orange, like this. So if I reload the page in this case, as you see here, the border, it is orange and all of that. And the solid property, you could change it to dotted, like this, save it. As you see here, just some dots, or dashed, dash, as I think, like this. As you see now, it is dashed. And there's some other properties, just Google them, but the most important, useful ones, it is the dot and solid. So let's just stick with solid one, solid. And also we could make this border a little bit radius if you want that, by just move the border radius to 15% pixels, for instance, like this. If I roll the page, as you see now, the border is like at the right and left, like a half circle, and it's kind of beautiful to add to your page. And now we're going to jump to the other property, and it's when it's hover. When it's hover, I want something. When I hover this link, I want something to happen. So like go after A, I'll do hover, like this. Now let me change everything in here. Let's just stand with the border. I'll change it to 0, to still no border. The back shadow, remove it. The background color, instead of blue, I'll do to these, like a gray color. The text decoration, I'll go with underline. And the padding, I'll leave it as it is. And also the color blue, I'll leave it to light gray or light blue, for instance, light blue, like this. So after saving it, reload the page. So now notice when I hover this button or this link is going to add more things to it. As you see now, when I hover it, so let me go change this light blue color to red color. Now, as you see, when I hover it, it's give me the border removed, and the text changed to red color, and give it that decoration underline, text decoration to underline. And also the background color changed to gray, as we expect it to be, like this. Now it's kind of cool, make it active. The user automatically, we know this is a button, is going to take him or take them in another page. And let me here jump to the index, and inside of the A's here, right here, I'm going to do something like target, I'll do underscore blank, like this. And this property just allow me, or allow the user, when he click or declick in general on the link, to open them in a new tab. So let me reload this. So when I click here, it's open me in a new tab, and the previous page is still as it is. So like this. I think up to now we covered a bunch of styling. We could add more stuff, like here when we hover set the text decoration to underline, you could change it to line through. If you save it to reload the page, when I hover, it's show me a line through the link. And font family, I already here, you could change the font size. So let me smaller size this to its normal width. Change the font size of this, you can, and all of that by just doing here font size to 20 pixels, like this. Save it, reload. As you see now, it's bigger here it's quite bigger. So as you see, we could just give it like a bit of margin also, like 5% for instance in this case, just to push that, or 10, 50 or whatever, just to push that one. Let me see, here we are, it's still on it, but we could just adjust that inside of here, but pulling it out of X, Ctrl V, here we are. So let me remove this to 2%. As you see here, this margin get me 2%, and you can visit our channel now is bigger than it was. I think now we covered the most important basics in the HTML. And also for the link, if you want it to be in the center, all you gotta do, just jump here and do, for instance, text align to center, or text align center. If not change, you have to make it to the container to make everything inside the container text align to center. So let me copy this one, text align center. To change this, just let me go at the container. Although everything jumped to the center, as you see here, this property is working perfectly. Everything jumped to the center. Let me add here a button out of the div, like a button that we already done in previous video. And this button, like, go with click me, for instance, click me to take you or Facebook or YouTube channel, YouTube. So if I reload it here, as you see the button, it is in this corner. I'll give it a class name, as I said, of button. Not just copy it like this, jump to the styling, do the dot to call the class name, give it a padding, and the padding, it is just specify what is inside there. So in here, the padding, it is inside of this border. Everything inside of the border, it's just the padding. We could adjust it, like making it 12 pixels in this case. If I save it, so save it, I reload the page, as you see, inside of the border. But the margin, it's control out the border, right? Now if I do, for instance, margin 5%, is going to push everything out. So when I reload the page, as you see, just push it from the top and the corners and all of that. For instance, here I want this button to be on the right. What I'm going to do, just float to the right like this, save it, reload. As you see here, the button float to the right, and as you see here, when I hover it, just give me that cursor, little mouse there. I want to, for instance, like a hand. When I hover over something, give me a hand, so I'll go with cursor pointer, I'll have a pointer. After reloading the page, so when I hover it, give me this thing right here. And as you see here, there is something like a border and outline. You could just get it off it by making outline none. And also border, for instance, 0. Now, as you see, everything has been changed. I think up to now we covered much things, but before that, let me do at least a paragraph and add some styling to it. So lorem, save it, go here, I'll just give it a class of lorem. Let me reload this. As you see here, let me before that do a div in here, like a div. Copy this or just drag it in here. Save it. Let me here do like a class in here called push down, push down, push, just push. I'll jump here, I'll do that push. I'll give it a margin of, for instance, 5%. Now as you see, everything is pushing down, as you see here. Let me go get it out of this border to make the button in here. So I'll just leave it with 50% like this. So as you see here, everything is pushing to the bottom in here. I can create another div in here and call it the lorem div. Control X, Control V. If we reload this, nothing's going to change. Let me get it off this button right here, like this. Now, push this. Lorem to edit the paragraph. The paragraph, like this. Or lorem, and give it, for instance, it's better actually to give the class name to the div. Here I'll give it a padding of 12 pixels and some border. Also border, we could do it to anything. Border of 1 pixel solid and color red, as you see now. And we could give it a margin of 12 pixels too, like this, and some background color of gray. Also, like, go with font family to Arial, this time Arial, sans serif. I'll go with font size to 20 pixels, and let me save this and show you something. Now this is the, let me add the color here, color to white color, like this. Now if I want to separate this lines, what I gotta do, just do line height, I'll leave it to, for instance, 3 pixels. It's going to, as you see here, the lines get a height of 3 pixels. It's a cool properly. And also you could go with a letter spacing and make it, for instance, 4 pixels, and just make 4 pixels between every single letter, like this. I think up to now it covered much things in CSS, much properties. This is the most important things in styling. You're going to use those things in every single page you're going to use. So I hope you get what I'm trying to say, or what I'm trying to explain to you guys. For other stuff like animation and all of that, you're going to get to know them with time, but this is just the basics to start your own web page. And before I'm going to end, let me create like a nav bar before ending this video and make it cool. So inside the CSS, I clear a new file. I call it a nav bar, nav.c or nav.index.html, I'm sorry, and also another file for the styling. I'll make it nav.css. Save it. Let me close this two here. I'll let it just with the other two. So let me remove this folder like this. So inside the head here, HTML is in nav bar. Inside, I'll call it by link nav.css. Inside of here, I'll go with a nav property, navigation. Inside of here, I'm going to implement some links like home, contact, content, and about, like this. So let me go to my desktop to open the folders, or in here to open to the folders. This is nav folder. As you see here, this is the links. And for instance, I'll give them some padding. Now what I'm going to do, just jump to the navbar. I'll go with the body, margin 0, padding 0, font family to sans serif to Arial, sans serif, and also I'll go with some fonts. I'll just leave it like this. Now I'll go with some nav. Inside the nav, I'll go with some background color of teal, for instance, or steel blue, like this. And the links, I'll give them some padding first, up top and bottom to 12 pixels or whatever, to just this. So as you see now, get me this padding. And now I have the links, so I'll go with A, just call them by their tag name without using classes in this case. The classes is useful when you have multiple A's for like this, and I want here to give like the home a different style and the contact different style, and you have multiple links in your page, so there it's better to use the class's name or the IDs. Inside of the A, I'm going just to give them some padding. Top and bottom, leave it to 8 pixels, right and left to 12 pixels. And also text decoration to none. Text line, I'll leave it to center. And also color, leave it to white, 3Fs. Now let me reload this. As you see here, the links like this get that pattern and all of that. And if you want, as I said, to make the text decoration to text line to center, it's better to implement inside the navigation nav tag. As you see, everything jumped now to the center. In here, what I'm going to add like a background, or without that, let me just go when I hover it. So hover. When I hover it, I want to display me like a wheat color wheat, like this, and text decoration, or like give me a border just at the bottom, bottom to 1 pixels, solid, and blue or wheat, the same color, just leave it wheat, like this. So when I hover now the links, as you see, it's giving me at the bottom that thing. So when I make it in its width, as you see, this is the navigation. When I hover them at the bottom, there is that border. Let me make it bigger, like this. So it's better now. This is the styling and cool and pure, as I said. And I think everything now okay. And you could just add some content in here, like the with section, and say inside the section, let me do some header each one, and say Idri logic, and say here P Idri logic means learn more, like this. It's better now. And also you could give it like here some section. I'll go just to jump to now styling on this section. I'll go with some padding of top and bottom to 5% and left to right to 20 pixels. Reload. I'm sorry, I opened a new bar. So reload. As you see now, push to the little bit, and here you could do your content like inputs or anything and do some styling. As you see here, this navigation bar, create the styling of it and all of that by just the things that I already shown you in the video or in that part of this video. And up to now, I think everything is okay with you. Let me see you in the next tutorial on JavaScript that are going to include just the most important stuff that we're going to use in our journey in creating pages, of course. And there is some other properties we didn't talk on them today because it just for, as I said, or as you see here, the title of the video, just a crash course for the absolute beginners. So thank you for watching and stay tuned.